Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jacqs. Thanks for joining me today for Country Craft Creations New Year's Eve Disco Crop at the Rink. I'm excited to be one of 5 designers who are creating this year for this free event. And I will have a link down below in the description box to the private Facebook group because we believe in having a safe community. And in that group is where all the details are shared and all the prizes and challenges that you can enter to win take place. So if you haven't yet already, I recommend joining that group and being part of the New Year fun. It's a great way to just kick off the year. As part of that group, there is a new teaching platform, and on that are resources to go along with our project. Like there is a supplies list note page that goes along with the project that I'm sharing with you today that you can gain access to there, as well as a free cutting guide. So I highly recommend it. She does this every year. There are so many free tutorials in that group. It's just a wealth of creativity. For today, I have created a Jukebox Mini Album, and I even created a project in Cricut Design Space so that you'll have access to all the files that I personally use to create my mini album. Now, I must say that there is one element in that file that I used to create the lattice speaker section of the jukebox here, and that is an Access paid image. I didn't realize it at the time because, I don't really pay any attention to that because I am a paid subscriber. So I did look before filming, and everything else was free except for the lattice piece. So if you don't want this, you could just use a solid image for this particular element on the jukebox. I don't even know how much it is. I didn't even look. But it's just that one image. Everything else that you see I created. For those that don't have Cricut Design Space, I did make templates, of course. I did not have time to create cut files. If I do, I'm not even going to promise you guys. I just didn't have time to make it because I was busy creating for Country Craft Creations and setting up the teaching platform. So I will have the templates, and you can upload them to your cutting machine software and use them from there. I know you can. Just turn the PDF into a PNG and you're good to go. Okay, so I will have a link to the private Facebook group. From there, you gain access to the teaching platform where all our materials are for the event for free. But this tutorial is free, and as I go along describing how to create this project, I will provide as much information as I can. Because the jukebox itself has a rounded top for my design, it will be very hard for me to give you exact measurements. I can give you the size, but I won't be able to tell you the arc exactly that I use. So I imagine if you took the size that I have and then cut down your sides however you like them to look, you'll still end up with the same result. The arcing may just look different than mine. So if you don't like using templates, it's okay. And if you don't have Cricut, it's okay. You can still make this project. I've also made this project very versatile in how you can bind it, and I'm going to get more into that right now. So this is the base shape that we will be using for the pages, and it is also the same base shape that we're going to be using for the covers, which makes it really easy to put together. Now, one of the great things that I figured out about this as I was working through it is that the way that I have created this, you can bind it in so many different ways. And I love that about this. It's so versatile. As you saw here in my unglued example, that the jukebox is here in the center. It takes up most of the area of our base shape. But we do have a hinge here on the side. Now this is a 5/8 inch hinge by 5. So 5/8 by 5. And then this is the shape of our jukebox. That is also 5 inches wide. And the height is 7.5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So it's a 5 by 7.5 inch album, and then we have a 5/8 by 5 inch hinge on the side. Okay. When you measure the hinge and the album part, it is 5 5/8 inches across, which you probably knew that because you could calculate it quicker than I thought about it. Okay, so that's your base information for the base page and cover. Now, the fun thing about binding. The way that I'm going to bind this is I'm going to leave this flat. I'm not going to put any score lines or anything on it. When we do a flip out, we will score it, so it goes like this. But mainly, for me, it's going to say straight. So one of the first ways that you can bind this is by using your cinch machine or a bind-it-all or zip-it-all, or I don't know, whatever those other ones are called. You can use that to bind on the 5/8 inch hinge. The next way that you can bind this is by using binder rings. Now, I would probably use at least 4 to give it a little bit more sturdiness if you like binder rings. I know a lot of people don't. I do in some cases, but not in this particular case, because first I thought about using the cinch, and then I thought, oh, I could use binder rings, but I wanted it to be a little bit more sturdy. So I elected not to use binder rings, but that is option 2. The next option that you can do is by using disc. Now, I must say I got these at the Dollar Tree, but I do have other Happy Planner disc that I could use if I wanted to. But this color was perfect to go with this collection. So I'm going to use these. I don't know how many. Maybe 6. 5 or 6 here. We'll see. For that, you're going to need a tool to create the hole that you can put your disc on. So I actually have this We Are Makers. You know what? I don't know what it's actually called. I'll put it here on the screen. But it does make the holes in to your paper. And then you can easily add your disc. Another way to do this is you could use your cinch machine if you have one. And it usually cuts out a circle, but I have the square one. But it leaves the edge together. All you have to do then is take your scissors and just cut it open. And you'll be able to take your disc and slip it in. Okay? So even if you have a cinch machine, you can still turn it into using a disc. So that's option number 3. The next option is to do some scoring, and you can create a regular mini album using the lay flat binding method, and I have a video already out for that. I'll link it in the description box for you if you are interested in it. I have a whole guide, picture guide, and there's a video to go along with it showing you how to do the lay flat method. But then you can use this to make a hinge, an L hinge type of binding. Now, to do that, so I'm going to show you how you would do that since I'm not doing that method. I'm using the disc. You would take your base page and your covers, and you would score at 5/8 inch. You would also score at 3/8 inch. Got to figure this scoreboard out. So 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Okay. So we've scored at 3/8 and 5/8. Now, let's fold back on our 3/8 and burnish that. And then you can also fold on your 1/4 of an inch, or 5/8 of an inch, excuse me, and burnish that. Now, if you've created your lay flat binding for the spine, what you would do is take the 3/8 inch hinge, add your adhesive to the back side of it, and put it down on the spine of your mini album or your lay flat binding cover. And you've used an L hinge now to attach it to that binding. When you do it this way, it gives you a 1/4 of an inch gusset that we're not going to add adhesive to. What this 1/4 of an inch does, it allows your pages to lay flatter in your album. Now, as I'm saying that, it just dawned on me that you would not want to use chipboard when creating your cover in this fashion. You would just do a cardstock cover. Or if you don't want to have the additional gusset, you can just score at the 5/8 inch, burnish, and put that entire hinge down in the center of your mini album. Okay? Once you get your paper and decorations onto your page, if you're using 100-pound cardstock, it's going to be pretty sturdy. So I wouldn't worry too much if you are going to be scoring the hinge to make it a regular type of mini album. Okay? So I hope that all makes sense. That was actually kind of 5 different ways. I'll just recap. We have the cinch machine, or whatever you might have it, bind it all. We have binder rings. We have disc binding. And then we also have an L hinge with a gusset, or we could just use a 5/8 inch hinge to put it down mini album style. Okay? So that's pretty awesome when you think about it, that you have all these different options on how you can bind this. I love it. I'm going to be using that more often. Okay, now we're going to move on to actually putting our cover together. So for my project, I use Homer's Diner. This is a 50s inspired themed collection by Country Craft Creations, and it's exclusive there. You can only pick it up at their shop. There were ephemera pieces down at the bottom of this cover, which I cut off so that I could use for my projects. But these papers are absolutely gorgeous. I love them. I love the retro vintage feel of them. It's just so fun. I mean, look at the little poodle skirt. How adorable is that? I can't wait to share with you my project so that you can see this paper in action. Now, I did use the 8x8 mainly, but I also did use some elements and papers from the 12x12 collection. I will have a link for these supplies in my description box. The first thing you do for the cover is you cut out 2 pieces of lightweight chipboard using our base piece or base image, right, with the hinge. You're also going to cut out 2 of the same base shape in cardstock. Now, I did elect to use 100-pound black artisan cardstock. It's the linen. I am loving this, you guys, and I'm glad I have the white and the black. Now, I'm doing the 100-pound and the light chipboard again just to make it a little bit sturdier, but it will still be sturdy whether you use the 100-pound or 85-pound. So you're good to go. Whatever you have in your stash, use it. That's what a crop is about, using your stash to create. Okay, so I took some time and mapped out how I wanted to make my holes. I actually tried it several different ways before I got the right measurements, because I wanted it to be fairly equal on each end. And that will give me 5 discs that I'll need for this. Now, I did go ahead and punch one of these, and then once you get one hole, you line it up with the groove here, and then you just continue to punch the rest. So it's really easy. Now, the reason I'm going to punch these as we go is because I don't want this side to get too thick. But maybe I'll do one without punching ahead of time to see if that's even an issue. Okay, so I'm not sure which is the best way for me personally to do all of my homemaking. I'll be using 5 discs for this. And once you get, you know, the location of it, what I did was I measured in, what was it, 7/8 of an inch? Yeah. From the edge here, I measured over 7/8 of an inch and made a pencil mark. So then I could take my piece, put it in there, punch the hole. Once you get the one and it lines up, you can then put it over the little plastic punch there and continue to make the rest of your punches. I really love this tool. It's very easy. I also have the kind that is like a hole punch, you know, a long hole punch, but this is nice and easy. So this is how mine's going to go, these 3 layers. And then I'm going to put my jukebox over here, these pieces. So what we have is our lightweight chipboard here on the bottom. I'm using 1 base page, and then I cut a 5/8, I think it is, maybe slightly over. Yeah, it's just slightly over, because this was a scrap, by 5 piece, because I want there to be, I don't want to use black there. I decided not to. I think the white would look better, right? Because I'm using white in the background here. I just think the white will look better. So I decided to not do black. That's the change that I made. But if you're cutting this in white, if I'd known that when I started, I could have just used my 100-pound white, but I didn't. You would just cut your one piece out in the color that you want. You won't have to add this additional piece. So that's just me. Okay. Now I'm just going to use wet adhesive to glue this on. You could use adhesive tape, whatever works for you. This will be a lot of gluing. I was going to do the sheets of adhesive, but then I didn't want to mess with it. Even though that would probably be quicker. Okay. So I'm just going to line these 2 up. Easy peasy. Looks good. I do always check the back side to make sure I'm not, you know, going over the edge and don't see it right away. Yeah, I think that's good. And burnished real good. Now my table does wiggle, so I will speed up when I do any burnishing or probably gluing. Those are 2 boring things. And I don't want you to get too sick with all the wobbliness. So when you see my videos speed up during that type of process, that is why. I mean, it's a brand new table. It itself is not wobbly. It's just when you start to burnish, you're just moving the whole thing. So, okay, so I'm going to lay this extra piece down. Like I said, you probably won't have this. Oh, would you look at that? Of course, I had something on my finger. I hope it comes off. Oh my goodness. Well, it's already on. I'm just going to go with it. Darn it anyhow. Next, we're going to layer on our jukebox pieces right over this section. I think I'll run through all the pieces first and then I'll glue it all down. That way I can fast forward to that part of it. For these pieces, I did a lot of layering and I wanted it to be really kind of neon jukebox look, right? So I found some fun glitter cardstock in my stash. I have the white glitter cardstock that's like a no shed. I had these two that were shed. This one is a chunky glitter. And then I had this one that's more smooth, but it really shed a lot. So what I did to prevent this from shedding further, because I don't have aerosol hairspray, I used Mod Podge to brush all over my two glitter pieces that were shedding. And then I let that dry and now there's no more shed. Awesome stuff. Highly recommend doing that because these were both shedding very badly. So that's how I prepped my glitter cardstock, these two. I didn't have to do anything to this one. And then I also am using Craft Perfect by Tonic Studios mirror card. And I'll have this one linked down below for you. I love the color, it's so pretty. Okay, so we need to cut out one of these pieces. This is the jukebox base piece without the hinge, okay? And I've tried to label these in Cricut Design Space the way that I'm saying them. So this is the base page without the hinge. We need one of those, 5 by 7.5. You're going to need one piece that is the next step down. This is 4.5 by 7.25. And then the next piece with no hinge is 4 by 7. Now when we glue all these down, I want to point out that I'm not putting a border equally around them all the way. I'm adding them all the way to the edge at the bottom so that you have your border around it on the sides and at the top. But down here, they're all going to reach to the edge of the cardstock. Okay? So we have those pieces, and of course these aren't going to be layered exactly until I glue them all down, but you get the idea. You're going to need one of the, I think I called this a window. This is 3.5 inches wide, and it is 1 3/4 inches tall. Again, it's kind of like an oval, or you could take a circle, which would be what? 3.5 inches wide, cut it in half. There's your piece, okay? This is going to go up at the top. We have another half circle, if you will. This one is 3 by 1 3/8. This is going to go in the center of that piece. And what I did here was, I believe I used the 12 by 12 paper, and I cut out one of the records that's in the paper design. And I then wanted it to be like as if it was coming up from the back of the jukebox. You know, I'm sure you've seen that. So I just cut off a piece. But I was even thinking I might want to cut off more. I mean, I like that, but I don't know. Is it too much record? I feel like it is. I feel like I need to cut this down maybe 1/8 of an inch more. I don't know why. So why don't I glue this on while we're talking about it? And then that will give me a better idea of placement and how much I might want to cut off. So I'm not really going to measure anything. I'm just going to put it where I think it goes. Okay, so that looks like it's kind of in the middle, I think. So I am going to cut some more of this off. I just feel like it needs more off of it. I would also like to mention before I forget that you can use ink if you want to ink all of your edges. I was going to, but then, you know, I just don't have time to do all that inking. So I do think that looks better. I like that it's further down in the machine. I think that would probably be more realistic. Okay, for the center console, you know, where you punch in the music you want to hear, you're going to need one piece that is 3.5 by 1. So that's your center piece, and I use the mirror card there. Next, you're going to need another piece of glitter. Now, I matched the glitter, and this is going to be like where the buttons would be. So this is a little over, but I'll give it to you as 2.1/8 by 3/4. So that'll go here in the center. And you can leave it at that, but I went ahead and cut some pattern paper, and this measures 2 by 5/8, and that would go on top. Now again, if you want to do something that gives it the real button look, go for it, but I just think that's fun. Then I cut out 2 circles to go on either side. These are 1/2 inch circles. So 2 of those. Again, I matched the glitter in the background. And then I cut 2 more circles, and these are about, 3/8 inch circles with the mirror card. And they'll go on top. It's hard to do this. Like that, like little buttons, little knobs for the volume or whatever. Really cute. Then for the speaker area, like I mentioned, I did this one, and it is a paid access image. If you don't want to pay whatever it is to use this, there is a version that is a solid speaker piece. So you can use that as well. It's already made for you. This piece measures 3.5, and it is 3.5 tall. I would not recommend cutting this by hand, so I did not provide it by hand. Who the heck wants to do that? Not me. Now, usually on a jukebox, you'll see like the little feet down at the bottom, right? So I created, okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. So I created 2 little pieces that can go here on either side. That kind of mirrors that. Now, I do think these are thin on the wide side. So if you want yours wider, go ahead. I just am sticking with this, I guess. These are 1/2 inch by about 1 inch. So you really could go 3/4. Well, I would go maybe 5/8 of an inch, because right now they cover this space. We'll see when I get it all glued down. If I see that it's really off, then I'm going to cut a new piece. What I wanted to do is cover the orange and green, and it's okay if it's not on the white, but if it's like not even covering the orange and green, then I'll probably make it whiter. Hope that makes sense. Now, instead of using the traditional blocked kind of lines that you see on the sides or at the top of the jukebox, I created diamonds. I don't know why. I just felt like it. This diamond is about 1/2 inch wide by about 7/8 inch tall. I don't know if you have a diamond punch. You could really kind of create something like that without a pattern, but I did include that on the patterns. And then I created 2 smaller ones, and these are a little less than 1/2 inch wide by 5/8. And these are going to go here on the sides. Like that. Of course, this will all be better aligned. So that's how we put the cover together. To embellish it, I did cut out images from the paper. cut out these little dancers from the party page. And in my cutting guide, I actually tell you which paper I use so that you'll know which image comes from where. And then I cut out the little roller skates that are also on the paper. And I'm going to put these here and these up here. I just think this is so cute. I'm loving it. So what I'm going to do now that I've told you how to recreate this cover is to actually glue it all down. I gotta tear it all apart. I should have really went ahead and used adhesive tape, because then I could have had all these pre-glued and ready to go. I wasn't thinking, guys. I was so busy. I've been so busy getting everything prepared for this event and other things. Not really sure how well these will glue together, so we'll see. I believe I made this so that there was 1/4 of an inch on each side of this piece. But again, make sure it's all flat at the bottom. Having added that Mod Podge, it makes it really a little easier to do the burnishing, because normally I would put a paper over this and then burnish, but I'm not having to do that this time. I love how I say I won't talk through something and then I talk through it. Okay. Again, this should be about 1/4 of an inch on each side. Fourth of an inch here and there. Okay, this one doesn't seem to be sticking very well. I might have to use adhesive tape for this. Let's hold it down for a moment. Yeah, it's not even sinking in. So I'm going to use some of this score tape. I hope that works out better. Okay, so there is my cover all glued together. Somewhere along the way, I lost my other um, mirror card for my button there. So I'll have to cut out another one and add it. But that's the front cover. I think what I'm going to do now is to end this video as part one. I'm going to then continue on with the inside cover and the pages. Please let me apologize first for not having this done for the event. It's because I was preparing for the event. So it's not like I wasn't doing anything. So I'm going to continue to work on this as you are probably viewing the video right now, but that will give you time to create the cover and have that available. You'll have all of the files for you to create this project. You can go ahead and make your own pages if you like. And I would love to see how you design your pages. It would just be kind of fun. But I will be coming back with how I'm decorating the inside covers, the back cover as well, and the pages. So that's it for now, everyone. I hope you are enjoying this project, and I will see you real soon.